Mick, the Doctor of Digital.
And welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are a collection of love stories of get people get lost, get crazy and disoriented in the name of love. Another week, another great episode on Love Letters. Right, Mr. Mick?
Yes, indeed. We got a good topic, I think, and how things have evolved for dating.
Indeed. And are the MAGA kids all right?
Yeah, so we can introduce the topic of dating and politics. So I was thinking of this topic, and the title seems appropriate. For MAGA, of course, stands for Make America Great Again, but weave in the idea of young people's angst as a central thread in The Kids Are All Right, and it ties in with, of course, the rock band, The Who's work. It's a famous song and documentary. The documentary 1979, The Kids Are All Right, wasn't just a montage of The Who's greatest hits. It's a raw, unfiltered testament to the band's role as a megaphone for youthful angst, a defining force in their music and legacy. From the opening chords of My Generation with its defiant stutter, Hope I Die Before I Get Old, the film captures The Who's channeling the restless frustration and alienation of a generation caught between post war conformity and the yearning for something more. All of this has to do, of course, with The Kids Are All Right and what is happening in the dating scene. So I thought it's a great theme to talk about and describe what is happening in the dating scene. So young people and some older folks who want to date and often are restless and misunderstood as well because they can't find someone they can relate to. Along these lines, Maya Sulkin wrote an article for the Free Press entitled Right Young Things, A Night Out with the Mega Kids, which brings up an interesting point. How does politics impact dating preferences? So, the two terms of Donald Trump marked a significant shift in American political discourse, extending its influence far beyond the realm of politics into personal relationships. In conclusion, this episode examines how political affiliations have become increasingly crucial in romantic partnerships, analyzing the impact across the political spectrum.
Yes, and let's celebrate to make America great again. And let's give them applause as being American, Mr. Mick.
All right.
What is the political polarization and social preferences?
Well, first, you can take a look at the research, which indicates dating and love adjusting to the new political reality as the politics of America and probably some other places as well has shifted significantly. You can take a look at how love and dating have been impacted. Second, we can consider Maya Sulkin, who attended a Trump Tower party for young single conservatives, and report on what she overheard. Research indicates that political polarization has led to increased group favoritism and out-group hostility, meaning like if you identify with somebody, you can date them, and if you can't identify with them politically, you won't date them. So this is polarization affects social preferences where individuals are more likely to exhibit altruism and cooperativeness towards those who share their political views while being less cooperative with those who do not. This phenomenon is driven by perception of the opposing group's cooperativeness rather than an inherent unwillingness to cooperate. Studies suggest that this dynamic intensified during Trump's presidency as heightened rhetoric and media amplification deepened tribal loyalties, turning political affiliation into a marker of identity akin to religion or ethnicity. For example, experiments in behavioral economics have shown that when participants are primed with political cues, such as party logos or policy stances, their willingness to share resources drops significantly when dealing with perceived outsiders, even in otherwise neutral settings. This polarization mirrors the youthful angst captured in The Who's The Kids Are All Right, where rebellion against authority and a search for belonging fueled their music and resonated with fans. So, where we have this in group solidarity thriving, think of the fervent MAGA supporters or progressive activists rallying around hashtags where outgroup vilification festers. And the film's depiction of The Who's mod era fans clashing with rockers parallels modern political rallies where physical and ideological battle lines blur, reflecting a deeper anxiety about identity and control in this uncertain world. Yet the group isn't static, and research hints at potential bridges when cooperation is framed as mutually beneficial, say in economic games where both sides gain, hostility can soften, suggesting that perceptions, not fixed hatreds, drive the rift. And the kids were all right. The Who's music occasionally transcends its anger, such as in "See Me, Feel Me," which is a song showing fleeting unity amid chaos. Similarly, today's polarized youth might find common ground in shared struggles, economic insecurity, climate fears that cut across party lines. And this film indicates by young people, shows us that angst, where divisive, can also be a catalyst for connection if it's redirected. In conclusion, as Trump era polarization lingers on, understanding its roots in perception rather than intractable differences could be a key to mending a fragmented social fabric.
Mr. Mick, how do we know about political dating preferences?
Well, according to a 2023 Pew Research study, 45% of registered voters say they would not consider dating someone who voted for the opposing party's presidential candidate. And this represents a significant increase from 2016's 30% figure, highlighting a growing political divide in intimate relationships. In romantic relationships, differences in voting patterns during the 2016 US presidential election have shown to impact relational dynamics. Couples who voted differently experienced increased stress and conflict, which negatively affected their communal orientation and relationship maintenance. This stress contributed to a higher relational load and decreased relational resilience. In conclusion, ongoing relationship maintenance was found to mitigate some of these negative effects, suggesting that strong relational foundations can buffer against political disagreements.
Can buffer. I like that, Mr. Mike.
Yeah.
And what is a statistical overview of who would not date their opposite and their political definition?
Yeah, so who won't date the opposite party? And by a percentage basis, it can summarize what happened since 2016. The far left has a 63% non voting, non party dating stance. So the far left is generally refers to a segment of the ideological spectrum that advocates for radical systemic change to address social, economic, and environmental inequality. So if they find someone on their side, 63% said they would not date a person on the other side of the political spectrum. So the far left is strong rejection of capitalism as it currently exists, favoring extensive government intervention and alternative systems like socialism or democratic socialism. Far left positions, including calls for wealth redistribution, universal policies such as Medicare for all, the abolition of private prisons, aggressive climate action like the Green New Deal, and things of that nature. Politically, the far left aligns with figures such as Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Some argue they're still within the mainstream left, while true left groups like the Democratic Socialists of America or smaller anarchist collectives push beyond electoral politics and they want revolutionary change. Term's definition shifts depending on context. Opponents might label it as authoritarian or utopians. Supporters see it as visionary. Its influence grew in the 2010s and 2020s, but data from the Gallup poll shows that 11% of Americans, only that, we identify as very liberal, suggesting that the far left's vocal presence outpaces its numerical strength. On the liberal side, also a very high percentage, 54% would not date someone of a different political stance. Liberal is a broad ideological stance that generally supports progressive change within the existing framework of democratic socialism or capitalism, that is, featuring government intervention to promote social equality, economic opportunity, and individual rights. So people unlike the far left, liberals work within the system, emphasizing reform over revolution. They're mainstream Democratic Party figures such as Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. And economically, they support capitalism, progressive taxation, and infrastructure spending. But of course, they are not going to dismantle private enterprise. That term's meaning, of course, has evolved a great deal. According to the data, about 25% of Americans identify as liberal. It's a stable bloc. When those people of the moderate political spectrum, also a fairly high percentage. 32% also say they will not date someone of a different political stance. So this is a ideological position of moderation that avoids the extremes of both left and right, favoring pragmatism, compromise, and incremental change. Moderates typically support a mix of policies that are not connected to either of the main political parties, but having fiscal constraint with selective social liberalism. They're bridge builders. So there are some figures along these lines, Senator Joe Manchin or retiring Senator Mitt Romney, who are considered the sort of moderates. So of those, they would not date others don't share their political spectrum. And this is likewise true of conservatives. 47% is an ideological stance that won't date someone of another political background. But conservative emphasizes tradition, limited government, and preservation of established institutions, often resisting rapid social and economic change. Generally, they advocate lower taxes, reduce government spending, and deregulation to promote free market principles, arguing that foster individual liberty and economic growth. So they are traditional values, religious freedom, gun rights, and a strong national defense. In the Republican Party, conservatives range from moderates like Nikki Haley to hardline figures like Ted Cruz, and they are generally supportive of what we would say has been the success in the last couple administrations of Donald Trump. They've shifted with Trump's influence. About 36% of the American populace of voting consider themselves as a conservative. And when we get to the libertarians, another group that you mentioned, 29% say they will not date someone of a different political background. It's an ideological stance that prioritizes individual liberty above all, advocating for minimal government intervention in both personal and economic spheres. Libertarians champion free markets, arguing that voluntary exchange, unencumbered by regulations, taxes, or subsidies, drives prosperity and innovation. They want to abolish the income tax, dismantling a lot of the welfare programs, and privatizing services. For those who would be libertarians are figures like Rand Paul within the GOP. They diverge from mainstream conservatives by rejecting culture wars and military overreach, thinking that ending the war on drugs or pulling back overseas bases. Unlike liberals, they oppose government solutions to inequality or climate change, favoring market-driven approaches. And their intellectual heroes, Hayek, Mises, or Ayn Rand, emphasize self-reliance over collective action. In practice, libertarians are a small but vocal minority. The libertarians' position in 2020 and thereafter draw a very small percentage to vote, 1 or 2%, and no more than that. About 5% of Americans fully align with this label. They're often young, urban, or tech savvy, thriving in online debates more than electoral wins. And critics from both the left and right call them impractical or selfish. So libertarians argue that centralized power inevitably erodes freedom. They're purists in the system of trade-offs. In conclusion, the group that is most opposed to an opposing party date is the far left and the most tolerant, whereas the lowest disapproval rate was actually among the libertarians.
Indeed, dating is different action in different, administration. What is the impact across the political spectrum for dating?
Well, conservative daters have experienced both advantages and challenges in this post Trump dating landscape, or now current as well. They increase political identity, pride, and openness about beliefs, formation of conservative specific dating platforms, greater emphasis on traditional values in relationship expectations. Libertarian perspectives found themselves in a unique position, often serving as bridges between conservatives and liberals, generally more flexible in dating across political lines, focus on individual liberty extends to relationship choices. The moderate daters have distinct challenges. They're pressured to pick a side in increasingly polarized dating pools, often viewed with skepticism by both conservatives and liberal potential partners, growing difficulty in maintaining neutral political stances in relationships. Liberal daters have shown marked changes in dating preferences, stronger emphasis on political alignment in potential partners, increased focus on social justice values and relationship criteria, higher likelihood of ending relationships over political differences. The far left perspective demonstrate the most stringent political requirements, the highest rate of political deal breakers in potential partners, strong emphasis on activist involvement and shared political goals, tendency to view political alignment as crucial for long-time compatibility. So, in conclusion, the dating divide has impacted people of all political persuasions.
Mr. Mick, speaking of impact, what is the dating app response, psychological impact, and future implications?
Well, the dating apps have responded, of course, so they have adapted to this new reality of dating. So, it's an introduction of political preference filters, creation of politically aligned dating apps, enhanced political identity verification features, the psychological impact from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships indicates that political polarization has created a new psychological challenges in dating, increased anxiety about political disclosure early in relationships, higher stress levels in politically mixed couples, growing importance of political values and attachment formation. There's some future implications of this. This means that continually dating patterns are going to have increasing political homogeneity in long term relationships. That is, you have to agree politically to date, growing importance of political discussion in early dating stages, potential long term effects on social cohesion and demographic patterns. In conclusion, dating and love has been significantly impacted by politics.
Indeed, since this is not a political podcast but about love letters, what did Maya Solkin report in Right Young Things? A night out with the MAGA kids.
Yeah, so she actually went to a Trump Tower party for young single conservatives and to report what she overheard. So this would be one political group and how did they get along and what did they think? So over 100 young conservatives gathered at Trump Tower for a party and the dress code, dress like you're going to meet your future husband or wife. The host of the evening, Raquel De Bono, was the influencer who popularized the slogan, Make America Hot Again. She wore Chanel earrings and, like most women in the room, a perfect blowout. Raquel is a 28-year-old entertainment lawyer and conservative influencer based in the United States, known for her role as the director of marketing and communications for Date Right, a dating platform for conservatives. She's gained prominence for organizing social gatherings aimed at young conservatives, particularly in liberal leaning areas like New York City. These events, often co hosted with Right Stuff, blend political networking with a party atmosphere, seeking to create a safe space for conservatives to connect, mingle, and in some cases, find romantic partners. She's had a significant online presence, tens of thousands of followers on TikTok, around 70,000 as of late the year. Instagram, where she promotes conservative values and events. She's also appeared on Jesse Waters' Primetime, been featured in outlets like Daily Mail and New York Magazine. Beyond what she also does, she co-hosted the Power 30 Awards in January 2025, a TikTok sponsored event. University of Miami School Law graduate, De Bono identifies as a city conservative, emphasizing that one can enjoy urban life and still hold right leaning views. She's vocal about conservatives shedding embarrassment over their beliefs and has critiqued liberal culture in her content, often with a humorous edge. And this event was advertised as a night for the bold, the based, and the beautiful to meet, mingle, and embrace the chaos. The ad included a screenshot of an already iconic New York Magazine cover, which featured a photograph of gorgeous Donald Trump supporters at an inauguration party in DC. So I'm not hip enough to know what the based is, so I had to look it up. Based is used when you agree with something or when you want to recognize someone for being themselves, that is, courageous or unique or not caring what others think. Especially common in online political slang. Thanks to the Urban Dictionary, now we all know, if you did not know previously, because I did not. So some of the beautiful young people who were featured there with razor sharp cheekbones and expensive looking clothes, as in an opulent ballroom, having the time of their lives. The associated hit piece that was published clearly meant to reveal that the new young right is really like awful. What it actually did was amplify an idea already popular on the internet, that being young and right wing is hot. This is my garbage truck. So Bono, referring to a time when Trump posed inside a sanitation truck after Biden called his opponent's supporters garbage. We're just really owning the image. Based on the statistics, though, it would be still a matter of political affiliation since non conservatives might not admit that right wingers are hot. In conclusion, whether these events are capitalizing on the cruel kids or not depends on your political persuasion.
Mr. Mick, what is the background of the attendees?
The guests included a firefighter, a software engineer, a meme coin trader, and a partner at the prestigious New York law firm Kirkland and Ellis, along with online influencers such as Ian Wexler, Paula Scanlon, and Tiffany Fong. All of these folks share some common traits that will tie them together in contemporary American discourse. All three are young women who have emerged as outspoken conservative voices, leveraging social media and public platforms to challenge progressive narratives. Wexler, a political commentator with a TikTok following, critiques liberal culture with humor and non-traditional conservative lens, drawing on her finance and tech background. Scanlon, a former University of Pennsylvania swimmer, gained attention for opposing transgender athlete Leah Thomas's participation in women's sports, rooted in her experience as a sexual assault survivor and advocacy for independent women's forum. Fong, a journalist and influencer, built a following through her contrarian takes on COVID-19 policies and interviews with figures like Andrew Tate, often clashing with mainstream media. Each has carved a niche in rejecting establishment norms, Wexler against coastal liberalism, Scanlon against gender ideology in sports, and Fong against pandemic orthodoxy. They resonate with Gen Z conservatives using platforms like X and TikTok to amplify their reach, often appearing on right-leaning shows, Wexler on the Buck Sexton Show, Scanlon on In What is a Woman, Fong with her self-produced content. Their appeal lies in authenticity and defiance, blending personal stories with broader cultural critique. They've all faced backlash from the left for their stances. So their focuses differ: politics, sports, and journalism. Their shared belief is a bold, unapologetic conservatism that's reshaping the right's image. The typical partygoer was between 25 and 30. Many of them are splitting their time between New York and Miami for tax reasons. Some said they were Democrats in a previous life, campaigning for Obama or Bernie Sanders. Maya, the reporter, didn't meet a single person who had voted and considered voting for Kamala Harris. So a lot of the participants lamented the state of dating. They've been on dates with liberals, some had said, and they're splitting a bill. Like, do you know how much this dress costs? They have 30-year-old men telling women they aren't ready to have a family. They're not going to date a loser, and that's what they said. So some guests told Sulkin, the reporter, that outside the walls of Trump Tower, they still live as closeted Republicans. Becca, who is a 20 or 33-year-old HR specialist, recently moved to New York from Portland. She said, my roommate doesn't even know I have two MAGA hats hidden in my closet. So they're sort of undercover in some ways. So similarly, as one-time sexual preferences were hidden, with the political climate now, conservatives are often in the closet. These kids flirted, mingled, and networked as oversized American flags swayed over their heads. Trays of meatballs and chicken parm skewers shalom the crowd. Attendees were awkward men, beautiful women, and some who were slightly too old to be there. The event attracted a very specific type, the very outspoken conservative male. Very example would give consistent answers to personal questions of the reporter. Favorite book, the Bible. Death of the West by Pat Buchanan. Green flag, a girl they can bring to church. Red flag, vegetarians. Personal side, some of the attendees actually spoke to Maya. Wade Searle was such a man, a 22-year-old from Grand Rapids, Michigan, who works for LifeSite News. Searle is known in town for today's Rosary Rally in Morristown, New Jersey, in support of two priests set to face trial for blocking access to an abortion clinic. According to Searle, the voices of the future are no longer right-wing influencers. They're all alt-right. So Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity are voices of the past. And there were people like him who are saying, we're looking to folks like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, reaching a younger demographic. To be transparent, there were some things that when Maya looked up the background were not as informative as what they said in person, but perhaps some of the views would add to the way that people present themselves. And this is something you find out during dating anyway, that people are not always completely honest. So in conclusion, There were some episodes where you see documentation about some of the things that might be red flag-ish, but the young women are leaning leftward and young men are tending to the right of the political spectrum. So it's a problem in dating.
Problem in dating, indeed. What's typical date right like, Mr. Mike?
Yeah, so some of these events, these date right events, have become much more popular. And this is where De Bono, the journalist and this person, has said it's okay to be conservative again. So everyone at the party agreed that dating in New York can be hard if you're not a liberal. De Bono said that she hosted events like this to bring young conservatives together so that they can date. So living in New York, she says, you have to make sure you're not saying the wrong thing. And these events happen about once a month. Even some of them will cost like $90, pretty expensive for a younger person, which covers the entry and two drinks. They don't make money from these events. They lose money, but it brings people together and they can mingle. So Grace Hickey was a 26-year-old conservative from Long Island. She doesn't rule out liberal men. She said she dated a guy who worked in the Biden campaign as a limo driver, but she really wants to date someone who shares her values. Hickey, who was dripping in Cartier jewelry, said her last boyfriend was a Trump supporter, but he ghosted her and moved to London. Hickey only found out by checking an app. I know times are changing, she says, but I still want someone to provide for me, which is kind of a traditional way of thinking. Some of the more personal dialogue and interaction between participants provides a human dimension to the proceedings, and Salkin reports on one such interlude. Jen, 27, who didn't want to reveal her last age, made a similar point. Even though it's not widely accepted, she says, I want to be a stay at home mom. I don't want to be the breadwinner. Despite all the bravado and talk of Beef Tallow and Andrew Tate, these young people ultimately want to feel butterflies in their stomachs, a feeling they're not finding on an app. Hinge is not the place for conservatives, said Jen. But lightning did strike her at a New York City bar recently. She said a few days ago, Jen was playing pool where she accidentally poked a cute guy with her cue stick. They got to talking, and Jen said she was from Texas, close to the Gulf of Mexico. He replied, You mean the Gulf of America? And Jen laughed. After a bit of flirtation, she admitted to him that her family is conservative. He said, I know, you found my joke funny. Reflecting back on that moment, Jen said, It was nice to find someone I can talk to about these things. My friends are very liberal, and I don't feel like I can always express my opinion with them. And yet, at the end of the night, I didn't see any young guests leaving Trump Tower looking like they'd gotten especially lucky. On my way out, the reporter says, I caught Jen at the top of the escalator and asked if she had met anyone special that night. No, but I made a bunch of girlfriends, she said. And it's always good to meet new people, you know? And then she grinned. Guess who texted me? The look in her eyes, the reporter knew right away. The pool boy. So now we're going mini golfing, she squealed. So now I'm like picking my outfit in my head. In conclusion, I don't know if such a soiree such as this is for everyone, but you never know. And maybe for at least one, a MAGA kid is all right, and perhaps the two can find love.
Indeed, you never know, people. MAGA Kids is on the block. Can we conclude this discussion of political affiliation and dating, Mr. Mike?
Well, the Trump presidency has left an indelible mark on American dating culture, fundamentally altering how individuals approach romantic relationships across the political spectrum. This shift represents more than a temporary trend, suggesting a lasting change in how people view political compatibility in intimate relationships. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for navigating the modern dating landscape, whether seeking partners within or across political lines. Trump presidency has heightened polarization, influencing both social and romantic relationships. Individuals tend to favor those with similar political views. Relationship maintenance can help mitigate the stress and conflict arising from political differences. In the City of God, Augustine grappled with the political tensions of his time, particularly the conflict between the declining Roman Empire and the rising Christian community. He addressed this by distinguishing between two realms: the city of man, characterized by earthly power, self interest, and temporal concerns, like Rome's repressive rule, and the city of God, defined by divine order, eternal truth, and spiritual unity. Augustine argued that worldly powers, such as the Roman Empire, were inherently transient and flawed, often clashing with the Christian pursuit of a higher moral and spiritual purpose. He urged Christians to prioritize their allegiance to the divine city while still living within the earthly one, suggesting a form of coexistence that transcended political strife without fully escaping it. And as we suggest, this is what could be happening with dating. So there's a lasting mark on dating culture, reflects a deeper tension between competing visions of identity, such as Augustine observed in the city of God. In conclusion, while political polarization pulls us apart, prioritizing the timeless qualities of connection over the fleeting battles of the city of man offers a path to navigate this divided landscape, whether dating within or across political lines.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Donald Trump, for your influence, either in the bad way or in the good way. And the question, are the MAGA kids all right, proves deeper than a political alliances. It confronts the psychological and societal currents shaping a generation step in American polarized climate. Mr. Mick, another great episode on love letters. And would you like to plug in something?
Sure, the idea to author coach on Facebook. And if you want to write books and sell more books, I can reach out to me. Also, you can listen to my podcast, the Doctor of Digital podcast, and a couple volumes out on Amazon. That is Burning America and the Best Interests of the Children and On Track, Ian Honor. So thank you for the opportunity to plug some things.
Yes, people, I want to invite you to please do listen to our baby podcast, Mental Health 101, with Mr. Mick. And Mental Health 101 is created to empower our mental health awareness. So, Mr. Mick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend, Mr. Daniel. Deus Volt.
More to come, people. See you soon.